Welcome to the No Limits Podcast, where limits do not exist, where you can create cash flow, equity, and real freedom with the power of real estate.
3, 4. Now, we will begin.
Welcome to the dojo. The dojo. The awkward ask and why it is so powerful. That is the topic of today's show. But before we jump in, if you have not been to our site, check out NoLimitsRealEstateInvesting.com and download the wholesaling map. Whether you're a brand new investor and looking for that first deal, or you're looking to scale to 7 or 8 figures, this is the blueprint that you must use. I give it to you step by step. So go to NoLimitsRealEstateInvesting.com and download the blueprint. Also, if you have been listening and you have not shared the show and you love what you're hearing, please copy and paste the link to the show wherever you consume the content, and text it to 3 or more of your real estate friends, colleagues, teammates, or whoever else you think would benefit from it. Also, I do see reviews on iTunes, so keep reviewing it. I am absolutely loving it, and it's helping the show really, really grow. So thank you. So let's talk about the awkward ask and why it is so powerful. So this episode was actually inspired by a sales training call that happened yesterday. So I'm on a web conference with our team, and we're reviewing all of our leads. And one thing that I can tell you as an investor and as a business owner is that you want to make sure that your team, or if you're by yourself and a solopreneur, or if you have a manager managing that team, you want to make sure that your leads are always being managed properly. Meaning that if you've got a fish on the line, that you're keeping the line tight and that you are reeling it in and that you are going to bring that fish without losing it. And so while looking at our sales training meeting, I noticed that some of our hot and warm leads were lacking an appropriate tight next step. So if you have listened to the No Limit Selling System, something I talk a lot about on this podcast, you want to get a commitment after talking to a seller. Okay. Now, again, if this is the first time that you're listening to this podcast and you're brand new, the goal of our type of real estate investing, and that is wholesaling, this is the niche that I talk a lot about on this podcast, is to find a motivated seller and to buy that property below market value so that we can either keep it or sell it for top dollar for a fast profit. And so when we run into people with problems, they are already natural procrastinators, meaning that they put off stuff day to day that they should take care of. So whether it's paying the taxes or paying the mortgage payments or doing the maintenance or kicking out a tenant, or if they've stayed in the property too long when they should have moved out a long time ago, or if they're hoarders, or for whatever reason, they have not acted on selling their property or doing what is necessary to keep it in the condition that it should. And so what's really important is that you have to keep these fish on a tight line. Now, there's a little trick in fishing that when you get a big fish on the line, you cannot have the line like completely loose, because if the line is loose, the fish is going to run, and then its tail is going to either cut the line or their teeth might cut the line. So you've got to keep the line tight and you've got to keep the rod high, right? So that hook and that line is above the fish's tail or its mouth so it can't cut the line. And so you've got to do this with every single lead that comes into your database. And so why do I call this the awkward ask, right? Well, this is all about getting firm and clear and laser focused commitments from a seller, okay, that are so clear there could be no confusion. And so I have a rule in my company that for every lead that comes in, there has to be a very next step between now and the very next phone call or meeting with the seller, meaning that the seller knows exactly what's going to happen between now and when we speak or meet next. And the acquisition specialist knows what is going to happen between now and that next phone call or in-person meeting. And if you would ask both those people what happens next, what commitment happens next, that answer is identical, absolutely identical. Now, it's interesting because the purpose of this right, is so that we can condense the sales cycle so that you avoid follow-up conversations like, well, I didn't do this, or I didn't think about that, or I didn't get to talk to my CPA, or I didn't talk to my sister, or I haven't thought of a price, or my tenant's living in the property. And so if you're in this business for any length of time, you are starting to hear these types of excuses, right? The call me the next weeks, or I haven't done X, Y, Z. And I can tell you this is a revenue killer. It's a spirit killer. It's an energy killer. It is a business killer. Time kills deals. We want to pack as many deals into a month as possible. And I want to see your bank account count swell. And then I want to see you take some of that cash and put it into income producing assets. And it all starts with getting commitments, keeping that fish tight. So I'm going to dig deep on this awkward ask because I was looking at our acquisition specialist leads yesterday, and he says meeting at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, right? Said we will talk about price. And I said, what do you think about this commitment? He's like, good. We agreed to talk on Tuesday and we'd talk about price. I said, how do you feel about that? He goes, well, that's good. We both know the next step. I go, that is weak. That is so weak. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, how in the world is the seller going to come up with a price? I said, you're going to call the seller and ask them about price, and they're going to say, well, I don't know. You tell me, right? So I said, I want you to get the seller back on the phone. And you said you would agree to talk about price. So you want to clarify what the seller is going to do to come up with their price. Because a lot of times they don't even know, right? The problem is that most sellers don't know how they are going to come to a decision. Okay, so commitment is something that you both agree on that will happen with crystal clarity. Okay, that's very, very, very important. So let's talk about price for a second and how this could go every which way. So is the seller going to talk to their neighbor about what the house is worth? Are they going to pray about a price? Are they going to talk to a realtor? Are they going to shop it around to other investors? Do they need the money for a new trip, a new home, a new RV? And that is how they're going to come up with a price. And so what I want you to do is ask that deeper question, right? The awkward ask. Most people don't want to dig in and ask that next layer, peel the onion, right? Ask that awkward question because usually, right, they're not trained to do it. That's the first step. Number two, it could seem awkward to press and go deeper. It could seem like you're putting on pressure, right? And I'm going to show you how to relieve that here in a second. Number three is maybe they're scared of the answer. Maybe you're scared of the answer, right? But I can tell you that once you do this, it does not become awkward. It becomes empowering. And the seller respects you. And you respect yourself. And you shrink the timelines. And then all of a sudden, the prospects who are going to work with you appear. And the ones who you are wasting your time with disappear. And I'm telling you, that's what a tight database looks like. Okay. Now, again, picture this like a fish. Okay. You have a hook in the fish's mouth. You got to keep it tight so the fish does not go all over the place. Okay. You know where to spend your time, and you're going to help the seller come to a decision. So I would get really granular. So, Mr. Seller, we agreed that we're going to speak on Tuesday at 6 p.m. and you're going to have a price. Yes, I agree. Okay, understand. So let me ask you, if you don't mind, how are you going to determine the price that you need so that you can agree to sell the house to me? Now, by the way, Mr. Seller, this is how I'm going to take off. I'm going to bust out of the role play here for a second. Mr. Seller, by the way, if you don't want to do business with me, that is 100% okay. If it's a no, just tell me no. But I would like to help you understand and maybe help me understand how you're going to determine your price and how you're going to come to that decision. Boom. Now you're getting clear. Well, I'm going to talk to a realtor friend of mine. Okay, great. So then I'm going to say, and what if your realtor friend says that they want to list it and that you shouldn't sell to me? Okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? Because now they said they're going to talk to a realtor. Well, what do realtors do? Realtors are going to try to convince them to list it. So now I'm going to go deeper into that and ask the next question. Okay, so what if your realtor friend says you shouldn't sell to me and that you should try to sell to them for top retail? Because for me, you're going to trade a little bit of equity here for speed and convenience. And if you want top dollar, you should probably list with an agent. So now I'm hitting this between the eyes, right? I'm using the courage. I'm digging in. I'm not scared to lose the deal, right? You got to go for it. And then they may say, well, if the agent says that I have to do too many repairs, I'm going to work with you. All right. Well, how would you determine that? Well, if it needs more than 5K in repairs, then I'll work with you. Okay. And if it needs less, if it needs less than that, well, then I'll probably list with an agent. Okay. Great. So one more question. Is there anything else that you need to determine the price that you need for the property before we speak again on Tuesday? I have that you're going to talk to your agent and you're going to determine the repair amount. No, that's it. Okay, great. So we're going to meet on Tuesday. You're going to talk to your agent. If they say that the house needs more than 5K in repairs, you're going to go with me. And if they say it's less and you can get top dollar, you're going to go with her. Is that fair to say? Yes, fair. Great. I'm going to put this right on my calendar. I'll talk to you at Tuesday. I'll be right on time. If anything changes between now and then, feel free to call me. Boom. Okay, now, you see how tight that is? By the way, I also flushed out an objection when you have that awkward ask, right? You get information that you normally wouldn't have gotten. And I'm telling you, most people don't do this because they're scared of the answer. So you've got to run towards the truth. So now that you have that answer, you pick up the phone, say, Mr. Seller, I know last time we talked, we agreed that you were going to talk to your real estate agent and you were going to talk about the price and the repairs. What was the outcome of that conversation and where do we go from here? Man, now you're driving the fish to where you want them to go. And either you're going to lose that fish or you're going to pull them out of the water. I don't care which one it is, but let's find out. If we're going to lose this fish, let's get our line back in the water. Or if it's time to push this monster bass out of the water, let's do it right now. And so for me, make sure that when you are in your database, and by the way, I highly recommend that you're using an electronic database, note that, be granular. Remember, okay, to put this on every single lead, okay, actually written down in your database. And if you're training a team, this is an absolute requirement. Now, this is going to take repetition. It's going to take training to train yourself and train your team. But I could tell you that this skill, man, you are going to be running circles around your competitors. Even when you drive your prospect to a no, man, you saved yourself time and energy and just the grief of dealing with someone who is not motivated. So remember, head on over to NoLimitsRealEstateInvesting.com, download the map. Remember to ask those awkward questions and go deep. I promise you, it is absolutely worth it. And I will talk to you on the next episode.